My beginner white loaf bread recipe has been so popular here on YouTube, I thought, let's try another one. And today we're doing the 100% whole wheat, which was much requested by you. You can check out all the details in the longer video, which was my original one, right up here and also in the description box. This recipe actually comes from the master bread bakers at King Arthur Flour, so I'm going to leave you a link to their recipe also in the description box below. I've made a few adjustments to this recipe for people who are like us and find that whole wheat bread is sometimes a little bit bitter. This version is phenomenal. My whole family really enjoyed it, and I think you will too. Let's get started. We're going to go ahead and start by activating our yeast. And in this bowl, I have 2 1/4 teaspoons of active dry yeast, and we're going to activate this with water. Now, I'm going to use, this is 3/4 of a cup of the water that we're going to be using in the recipe. And I'm going to put just a couple of tablespoons of that in to the yeast, and I'm going to give this a little stir. And we're just going to let this sit until it activates. It'll take it a few minutes and it'll start to really foam up, and we'll move on from there. If you need more in-depth details on how to activate yeast, you can check out this video right here or check the description box. So our yeast has started to foam up, and we know it's active. So now it's time to just put all of this together, and it's really, really simple. We are going to do this recipe in grams today. I know that there are a lot of us who feel like grams are the way, and I tend to agree with you. So this is just a lot more foolproof, or fail-proof, I guess, than if we were doing it in cups and that sort of thing. And you're not going to be able to see my scale too well because it's down here and the bowl's larger. I am going to leave you a link actually as well to my favorite scale, which is not this one that I have. It has a little pull out so that you can see the scale much better. But basically what we're going to do is just put everything into the bowl here. So I'm going to put in my yeast, which we used part of the water from the recipe in this, remember. So the goal here is for between 227 and 255 grams of water. You're not always going to know how much you need, but I'm going to start at 227 and we're going to go from there. And then 1/4 cup or 50 grams of oil. Let me watch my scale here. And we'll get about 50 grams in. And I'm using avocado oil here. I don't use vegetable oil, but if that's what you have and that's what you use, that's fine. Vegetable oil is too inflammatory, so we don't use that. And then we're going to go in with 1/4 cup of honey, or 85 grams of honey. I'm using raw honey here. That's our preference here at home. Okay, right on the money actually. I'm going to put my water in. Now I am going to do, this recipe calls for a whole cup of water or some liquid. I find, and especially you may find, that if you're trying to convince new eaters to go for wheat bread, that the bitterness of wheat can be a little bit off-putting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in the remaining bit of water that I have here, but I'm also going to add 1/4 cup of orange juice. You won't taste it, but it helps to kind of cut the acidity that's in there. Okay, so I'm at 208, and with the water that we've already taken out and used in our yeast, that's going to put me pretty close to the 225 mark. Okay, now I'm going to stir this together. We're going to go in with King Arthur's white whole wheat flour. So that's what we're going to use here, 397 grams. Don't forget to zero your scale in between. And that's what's so great about using the scale, is you don't have to get out a bunch of measuring cups. And then we're going to put in our salt, which is 8 grams. And I use sea salt, but you can use whatever salt you prefer. And then the last ingredient is going to be a little bit of instant or non-fat dry milk. So I love Thrive Life foods. I have used Thrive Life. Let me show you this one. I have used Thrive Life's products for years, and I really, really like this brand. I use their freeze-dried food a lot, so this is the freeze-dried milk that I use from their products. And we're going to put in 28 grams of milk. Now this powdered milk is going to help with the moisture retention in the bread, make it a lot softer. And I will make sure to put all the volume measurements in the description box so you can check those out if you don't want to do it with a scale. So that's it. And let me take this down. And then we're just going to take our fork and we're going to kind of work this together. And then we're going to need to give this some time to sit here because wheat flour is a little bit harder to get hydration into. We're going to let this sit here on the counter about 20 or 30 minutes so that it can hydrate before we try to do any kneading or anything. Okay, so you can see your texture on this, that this will change as it hydrates, I promise. You can see, I mean, it's not so sticky that I can't touch it. So this is what it's going to look like. We're going to let it sit here for 20 minutes and I'll come back to this and show you how to knead it. Been about 20 minutes and you can see that the dough has really kind of softened up. So we're going to go ahead and knead this. Let me show you how we're going to do this. Now, you know, some recipes require flour on the board and some do better with a little bit of oil. So what we're going to do is just a little bit of avocado oil out here. The goal is not to add a bunch of flour to this, because if we do, then we end up making it even heavier than, you know, wheat bread tends to be. So I've got it out here. And if you've never kneaded before, you know, this process is really pretty simple. You just put your hands in it, turn it, turn quarter of a turn, press, and turn away from you. If you have seen my white bread video, then you know that there are people who've asked, they're like, you know, my bread dough got really sticky when I was kneading it. What did I do wrong? And I want to just point out to you that I am not mashing this, like I'm not smashing this all the way into the counter. I'm being kind of light and gentle with it. So make sure that when you're doing your kneading that you are being light and gentle as well. It'll come together for you and really smooth out. You don't have to just smash it to death, because then it will get really sticky on you. We may need to add a little bit more oil as we go along, but for right now we're doing fine. And I'm going to knead this 6 to 8 minutes if you're doing it by hand. I think if you're a beginner baker, it's still a lot better to do things by hand than it is to use a bread machine or a stand mixer, so that you begin to learn how dough feels in your hands. So I'm getting a little sticky. I'm just going to put a little oil on my hands here. It'll transfer to the board. And then just keep going. So I'm happy with that. And I'm going to put this back in the bowl that I started with. So I'm just going to put this down in here and I'm going to cover it with some plastic wrap. And my air conditioning is on in my house, so I'm going to take this outside on the porch and set it up there for 1 to 2 hours until it's puffed. And it can be doubled, but doubled in size is not a requirement. So just get it to rise a little bit and then we'll go on from there. It's been about an hour and 15-20 minutes and I've gotten the dough, you know, puffy and certainly larger than it was. Maybe not quite doubled in size, but pretty close. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to show you how to put this in the pan. So let's get this out and onto our surface. And I don't really see a whole lot of need in punching this dough down. You can if you want to, but what we're going to do is we're going to use our loaf pan. And this is an 8.5 by a 4.5. And this one's made by USA Pan. But what we're going to do is we're just going to use it as our guide. I'm going to kind of turn it this way so you can see. And all I'm going to do is just stretch this loaf out until it kind of meets the width of the pan. And then I'm going to just stretch back on it with my fingers. Okay, until I've kind of gotten a loose shape there. And then I'm just going to roll it up like a sausage. That's the best description I can think of for it. And once we get here, I can put that in the pan. So right there. And this will go in here. I did not grease this loaf pan because these USA pans just don't stick. But if you have any other kind of loaf pan, especially a very dark one, you would want to line this with some parchment paper that hangs out and over the edges of your pan and grease it really, really well before you put your loaf in. Now I'm going to let this rise until the center of my loaf is 1 to 2 inches above the top of the pan. That's going to take maybe an hour, maybe 2. So you really don't want to rush this part. You want to make sure you give it all the time it needs and just let the bread have its time. If it's been an hour and it's still not where it needs to be, give it more time. Just let the food tell you when it's ready. I am not going to cover this with any plastic wrap at the moment, but if you want to, make sure it's well greased, because if it sticks to your bread, when you pull it off to put it in the oven, it'll completely deflate. I just really don't like to take the risk, so I just leave mine uncovered. So I will see you back here when this is double in size. Our dough has risen 1.5 or so inches in the center above the rim of the pan, and I'm going to put this in the oven to bake at 350 on the middle rack for 35 to 40 minutes. After 20 minutes, I'm going to tint it with a piece of aluminum foil so that it doesn't get too dark, and then I'll bring it out and I'll show you how to put the butter on the top of it. We'll let it sit a little bit and we will slice it. So our bread's out of the oven, and mine actually took a really long time. So 35 to 40 minutes is what King Arthur says it should take. Mine took closer to an hour and 5. So every oven is different. There's nothing wrong with the recipe. It's just that we have to adjust for the oven variations. So now we're going to put a little butter on this. It looks really like dense to me, but if you touch it, it's so soft. So big, nice hunk of butter. Let's just rub a little of this over before we take it out of the pan. This just kind of helps soften the crust up a little bit if you want yours even more soft. But this is not hard and crusty. It will firm up a little bit as it cools, but it's actually really, really nice. And because this pan is a USA pan, nothing sticks. I didn't grease it and I haven't loosened this. Let's take it on out. Let's see if we can take it the way that you can see. Look at that. Rolls straight out of there. It's beautiful. I'm gonna let this cool. I know everybody wants to eat everything right away, but let's let it have a second or two. I'll come back to it when it's cooled down some and we'll cut a slice out. Now let's get this sliced open. It really slices so clean and easy. And look at that, it's soft. It looks like it might be dense, but it's really, really not. It's very nice and soft, and it slices so well. This is gonna be perfect for all your sandwiches. For more bread recipes, you can check out this link right here, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye guys.